Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of my CSS Variables mini-series. Now in this video we will be covering kind of messing with, setting, getting, and changing CSS variables using the JavaScript programming language. Now for anyone who doesn't know, JavaScript is generally one of the three fundamental web programming languages. HTML is used to build the structure of our website. CSS, as we have been learning in this series and in many of my series, are used to style the website, make things look good, position things, and JavaScript is generally used to add responsiveness or to add interactivity into a website. So the fact that when I click a sign in button, it takes me to this page where I sign in, that's JavaScript at work for the most part. Actually performing the search is JavaScript at work, or some backend language like JavaScript handles some of the stuff that you put onto here. So basically that's what we will be learning, and then we're going to use two examples. We can make something follow the mouse, some like CSS element, so we can actually have an HTML thing like maybe a div, a red div, just following the mouse wherever, and then we can have like a click to toggle dark mode or something like that, which I actually do have on my website, and I implemented it somewhat similar to how I'm going to implement it here. So we're going to go ahead and start off by opening this, and actually I think it's best that we we'll just retain our current files. So I'm going to go ahead and start up a live server just so we can get our current thing. And what we're going to do first is basically figure out how to get and set CSS variables. So the first step to doing all this is of course adding a JavaScript script to our website. And if you don't know JavaScript, I highly recommend checking out my JavaScript for Beginners tutorial series, which I will link a card to in the top right for the relevant video, although I'll probably just link the entire playlist, and that will teach you the fundamentals of JavaScript in general as a programming language. So of course we are going to create our script here, and then we're going to set our source to index, or we'll call it script.js, and then I will actually create the file, script.js here. Now, as you can see, this doesn't do much, but let's just go ahead and do a console.log to make sure. It's been a little while since we've done JavaScript on this channel, so I'm going to go ahead and save this here, inspect our element, come to the console, and as you can see here, we get our hello world here in the console as we've written here. And again, if you do not know this, go ahead and check out my JavaScript for Beginners tutorial series, or check out the JavaScript portion of my Introduction to Web Development tutorial series, depending on how much kind of a refresher you need. So let's go ahead and start off by figuring out how to get CSS variables. So if you watch the portion on my Intro to Web Development series, you'll remember in order to actually interact with HTML using JavaScript, we need to use something called document, and then we can say get element by ID, for example, and this will actually give us an element by its ID. So let's go ahead and come in here. And remember, we have this little red square. Let's actually give it an ID of, follow mouse. And actually what I'm going to do is this follow mouse div, first of all, I'm going to add a new kind of style that we've never seen before, but I'm going to select it first, follow mouse. We're going to give it a position of absolute. And what that means is basically the gist of how we're going to use it here is it will not interact with any of our other elements here. So notice that what happens is the hello world is actually going under it, because this thing is not, like, the website doesn't treat it as like a piece of text. So its margins, its padding don't affect other elements. So that's the first thing, because we want to make this square follow our mouse anyways, so we don't need it messing that up. And then we are probably just going to add a transition just to make it like look nicer. Transition, which is from our CSS animations mini-series. And of course, as I go through these, I'm going to be pulling from knowledge that we've already covered in previous tutorial series. So transition all 1s or maybe 0.2s ease, just so I can make it smoother. So first thing we're going to do is figure out how to get our CSS variables. So here in our JavaScript, we want to basically document, and actually instead of getting element by ID, we can say document dot dot get root node dot, or actually no, document dot document element dot, and then we can say style dot get property value. So what we're doing here is, I'll actually explain after I make sure this works really quick. So let me just try to grab our main color really quick to first make sure that this whole thing is working. So we'll grab that property, and then we will try to console log this whole thing. Console.log, and okay, it's not printing anything. So let me figure out this really quick. JavaScript get style from root node, get all of root, document.style sheets, JavaScript. See, again, we're going through my thought process when I'm debugging here. So JavaScript get root element, document.root element is deprecated. Document element for all documents. Okay, so this should work. I think I'm messing something up a little bit. Style.get property value, and then we're looking to get. Actually, I might be doing this wrong. Get CSS variable, JavaScript. Let's just check this tutorial really quick. So we have that document. Oh, right. Okay, this is my bad. So actually, I made a small mistake here. It's a little bit more complicated than I originally remember, but let's go ahead and come here, and then we want to declare a variable. So again, we're pulling from our JavaScript knowledge here, and we're just going to say property or main color, and then we can set it equal to the document or get computed style, which this is a function that basically takes in an element, which we can pass it the document element, and it will grab the styles from it, and then from there we can say get property value, and then we can say our main color. So if I do that and then I console.log our main color, there we go. Now we have the actual color value as shown here. And as a quick recap, so what I'm doing is I'm creating a variable here, and I am calling get computed style, which is a function, and I'm passing in the document element, which is this root here, because remember, we're putting all of our styles in the root, and then we are saying get property value and then main color. So that is how you get a style in CSS. And there are other ways, but that is probably one of the most straightforward ways to do it. And then you can, of course, set CSS variables. So quick function, I'm mixing in a tiny bit of JavaScript here. A quick function that you can use is called set timeout. And what you do is you pass it a function, and again, this is called an arrow function, an ES6 arrow function. If you don't know what that is, just go ahead and just do that instead, or yeah, function like that. You can, and then put your code inside, or you can, just as a different notation, you can do that, and then put your code inside. Same thing. And then I'm going to set 1,000 milliseconds, so this thing will run after a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say document element dot set property, or I'm trying to remember. I think I'm missing a tiny thing, so let me just make sure. Oh yeah, right. I need to select the style. So dot style dot set property, and then I want to set the main color to, and then let's just give it a new color. Let's make it blue. So we'll just pass it English because CSS understands blue. And notice what happens here is it's all beige and then it turns blue after a second. So that is the premise of setting variables. And if I set the timeout to 2 seconds, it's all beige. After 2 seconds, then it turns blue. Again, it's all this color. After 2 seconds, it turns blue. So that is how you set a CSS variable. So we're going to use these two properties to kind of figure out how to make our red cube follow the mouse. So the first thing we're going to do here is we are going to grab the red box element or whatever. So it's going to be document dot get element by ID, and then we gave it, I think, red something. We gave it an ID of follow mouse, my bad. So we're going to get follow mouse, which this right here, red box element, will contain the element for this red box, and I can prove that to you by console.logging this, and if I save it, it prints out the actual div right here, so this little div. and then we can use that to now say, we can set a timeout. So similar to set, or when we set timeout, what this does is, again, we write code and then we put a delay, and that means it'll run this code once, but actually you can change the format and say set interval, and set interval instead will keep running the code over and over and over. And if I set a delay like 1 millisecond, this will run like very fast, infinitely. Like if I print hello, look at the right side, it's printing hundreds and hundreds of times based on that number right there. Notice that number keeps ticking up. So that's how we can, for example, make stuff move. So let's just increase that interval to 10 milliseconds. And then what we can do is say we wanted to update the position of the box. So we can say, and let me figure out how to get the mouse as well. We're gonna just say how, or JavaScript get mouse position. And then we can just come here to Stack Overflow. Let's see here. Okay, that's slightly complicated. So you know what? We're just gonna say dot on click. So you know what we're gonna just do is we are saying document, and then we're setting a function called onClick, which means whenever we click on the page, and then whenever we click on the page, that's when we will update the square to the mouse's location. So let me just get, again, JavaScript to get mouse position. That's what I'm wanting to. Event.clientX. Let's see. No. I think I'm missing something here. So let me just make sure that I have this right. It might be mouse event dot page. Nope. See, I'm trying to figure out how to get the position of our mouse, which is what we need to do in order to make our red square do that. So window dot event dot screen. Okay. I don't want to do it this way, but let's just follow the top tutorial then, which will be here, Stack Overflow. I'm just going to actually copy all of this code from Stack Overflow and instead use this. So let's look at what this is doing. We can probably remove this little bit here, where it's a, well, no, this is a closure. So basically what this is called a closure notation. So they are creating a function that gets called immediately. So these little parentheses here are them calling the function. This is slightly advanced, but all that matters is what's inside. So we're setting document.onMouseMove to be a handle mouse move, which is this function, and this function is what handles when our mouse kind of moves. So I'm trying to figure out here. Okay. So basically in here we can access event.clientX to get our mouse X, which let me just verify that that is working. I don't want to get too hung up on this, but it doesn't seem to be working. Okay. So I'm going to print out the event to see what we get. So we get a mouse event with client X, and then it has a page X as well. Okay, perfect. So you know what? This actually, my bad. So this code was all good here, right here, the original code we got, and we actually can write our thing here. So again, I'm going to console.log event.pageX, and pageX is going to be the X position of our mouse. Notice it moves as we move our mouse. Simple as that. And simply we want to set our X and Y of the red box as we move. And you know, I'm actually gonna defer this click the toggle dark example. In fact, I probably shouldn't have even put this here because we are gonna do a dark mode example kind of for the final episode next episode. So I'm just gonna stick to the follow mouse example for now. And then, so what we're going to do here in our JavaScript is whenever we move the mouse, we want to say red box element dot style dot set property, and then we can actually set the x chord or something to the value of event.pageX. And then same thing here. We can basically grab the y chord, dash dash y chord, and then we can set it to page y. And all that's going to do is it's going to set some variables. And here in our styling, we can actually say, right here, we can say on the follow mouse we want the let me set the left and top really quick, and then we can say transform translate variable dash dash x chord, and then variable dash dash y chord. I spelled that, and let's see what's going on here. Okay, so a couple bugs. Let me quickly troubleshoot and figure out what's going on. So we are setting the property here. In fact, let's just go ahead and say document element, and let's just set the variables in the root element to reduce on any possible errors. And then, so let's just make sure that those are actually getting created. So let's come here to the HTML, and okay, so notice here, look right here where I'm circling my mouse around. This gets updated whenever we move our mouse around the website. So it's tracking the X and Y of our mouse. Now the problem is being that it's not seeming to be updating on the actual follow mouse thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can set it this way using these. Let's see. So let's just try setting left to var x chord, and let's see if this works. It seems to maybe be moving a tiny bit. Maybe. I'm not sure though. Oh, px maybe. And actually, this might be the problem here, is x chord, and then we want to add a px because it doesn't know what unit we're using. So px for pixels, there we go. So that's working now. And then let's just go ahead and set a top of var dash dash y chord. So in the end here, we have a square that follows our mouse around whenever we're on the website. And the way we did this is we achieved this using CSS variables. And the reason being that here in our styling, we set the position to absolute, which makes it so that this element doesn't actually interfere with other elements. If I remove this, it will not work at all, because you can't use left and top to set the position when it's not absolute. And then actually, if I set this transition, I think, yeah, now the thing will, it's a little glitchy, actually it's really glitchy, but it's trying to like smooth out the motion. And you know, I don't know how, there's many ways that we could smooth this out, but yeah, we're just gonna leave that for now and just be instant. So the way we're doing that again is we're setting the left and top to the chord to the variables, and here in our JavaScript, whenever the mouse updates, we are using these two lines to actually update those variables and change them. So as you can see, again, I'm circling this area with my mouse. Look as they change as we move our mouse because of the JavaScript, and this is the interactivity portion of the website that I was talking about. Now this, again, this looks kind of scary. Most of this was just copy and pasted. In fact, all of this was copy and pasted, or all of this up to the second line. And this is just some simple code saying like this is handling the mouse move event. So this is handling setting up like running code when the mouse moves itself, and anyone can copy this from the internet. But then these two lines are really what works our magic and what kind of do what we've been looking to do this entire video. So if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist, which is linked in the description, where I've been uploading daily. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.